Hi everyone. I've got my beautiful chocolate with me tonight because Fluffy is so smart, and when he sees us putting lights up and he knows that this is going to be one of those nights where he might be lifted up to be in these lights, he is such a clown. But I wanted you to see beautiful chocolate because I have been doing back-to-back trips, and when I got back just this weekend from yet another trip, they both came running to me at the front door. And later that night, while I was reading, trying to catch up on one of the newspapers, Chocolate came over to my barefoot where I was in the chair and laid down and put both of his front big fluffy fat little paws around my foot and laid there sleeping, holding on to my foot. It was one of the dearest things. And I believe without question that these little guys have souls like you and I and everyone, and that to love animals, to love earth life at this time when the world seems to be becoming more and more harsh seems so important. I love them so much, and I love all of you who send them letters and photos of your own cats and all of these things, because they help, I think, get us through a time that just feels so unstable. So he's falling asleep, and I'm going to put him down to go take a nap and continue with what I personally think is the worst and the most important news for all life on Earth now to contemplate, and it's coming from Brazil and the surrounding region and the Congo of Africa. The largest rainforest on Earth is called the lungs of our planet because it produces 20% of the oxygen in our Earth's atmosphere. And that is the Amazon rainforest on the left in this satellite image. The Amazon rainforest covers 2.124 million square miles, has been burning for weeks in Brazil and Bolivia and the surrounding region. And now the Congo River Basin in Africa on the right is also burning. It is known as the second largest lungs of our world after Brazil's rainforest. And this covers 1.5 million square miles. There are so many fires burning right now that smoke is visible from space. The European Space Agency astronaut Luca Parmitano on the International Space Station took this and other images of all the dense Amazon rainforest smoke on Monday, August 26, 2019, only 2 days ago. Behind the terrible burning of the South American rainforests is the political power of Brazil's President Bolsonaro, who thinks that, quote, fire and deforestation are essential to keep small Brazilian farmers and large ranchers that export beef and soy to the world in businesses, and that the damage, he says, the fires do to the world's largest rainforests is modest, close quote. That is his word, quoted from the Tuesday, August 27, 2019 New York Times. But this NASA nighttime photo taken between August 8th to the 22nd of 2019 this month from 18,000 feet via the Aqua satellite proves that the fires are not modest. At least 80,000 fires have been detected burning by satellite research scientists. That's the highest number of rainforest fires on record since 2013. CNN estimates there are 85% more rainforest fires this year than last year. The carbon dioxide released in the dense smoke of all the fires is a pollutant that can be carried far distances in the atmosphere to fall on other populations, adding to the global warming challenge around the world. The Rondônia, Brazil smoke was so bad on Monday, August 19th, 2019, that social media were posting on Facebook and Twitter that the Sao Paulo, Brazil sky went black dark between 3 and 4 p.m. local time, with photos like the one that we are hoping to show here to prove it. This tweet from Brazilian Robert Maguire stated, quote, "The Amazon rainforest has been on fire for weeks, and it is so bad it is literally blotting out the sun hundreds, thousands of miles from where the fires are. This is Sao Paulo today, 4 p.m. The cloud from the burning of Amazon rainforest in Rondônia covered the city. Sao Paulo is 2,052 miles distant from the Boa Vista that was then burning and causing the darkness in the afternoon, just to give you an idea of the damage," close quote. A week ago, on August 20th, 2019, the website UFO Scandinavia announced by Instagram that they had discovered in Google Earth a mountain-size oriental alien gray face carved in black mountain rock. It's about 400 miles from the USA's McMurdo Station in Antarctica, and McMurdo is on the Ross Sea side of the big icy continent. I received this August 20th, 2019 email with a UFO Scandinavia Instagram attached with a latitude longitude of the face. So the first thing I did was open up my Google Earth Pro application and type in the coordinates. As the Earth globe turned and the Google Earth viewer swooped around the planet down to Antarctica and then stopped in mountains covered with snow, I was puzzled by the face in front of me on my computer screen. The Google Earth image date for this photograph was September 28th, 2012, a full 7 years before this sudden emergence now for the first time of the Antarctica Oriental Gray Alien Face, first posted on August 20th, 2019. That was only 8 days ago. And you too can copy the Google Earth latitude and longitude at my Earthfiles news website, earthfiles.com, about this strange mountain-sized head and face. I place the latitude and longitude in bold numbers throughout the Earthfiles report, so you just copy and paste it into Google Earth Pro, an app that is easy to get and explore the Earth. I also learned that the strips of color on the Google Antarctic image, including the beige gold color over the large oriental alien gray head on the mountain, is a color feature that Google uses on high-res image data. Well, that may be one of the reasons. There might be others. But whatever the reason for the green and the pink and the goldish strips at the specific latitude, longitude of the Antarctic head, the goldish brown color reinforces a kind of oriental atmosphere for the huge head carved in the black stone. But why has this mysterious and massive head carved in a black mountain emerged now from Antarctica? Why can we find a series of Google images, both low-res and high-res, of this exact same mountain-sized head near Antarctica's Danielle Peninsula in the Admiralty Mountains going back to 2004, but only now, in August 2019, has this high-resolution 2012 image of the face and head emerged publicly? I wanted to ask and find out in a discussion with a military source who has contributed to my Earthfiles investigations for the past decade what he thinks. And now I'm going to share with you some excerpts from my phone discussion with him yesterday, Tuesday, August 27th. He is retired U.S. Navy Captain Mark Wood. Mark Wood holds a bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering from Georgia Tech and a master's degree in ocean engineering from Florida Atlantic University. He is also a registered professional mechanical engineer. He was screened for Aviation Command and was assigned as the executive officer of the 1st Reserve Patrol Squadron to be assigned to the new P-3C Update the 3rd, as well as the commissioning commanding officer of a Reserve Patrol Squadron Augment Unit for the Navy. Mark, why do you think it took from September 28, 2012 until August 20th, 2019 for this Oriental alien-type image from Antarctica to reach the public?
Well, obviously, somebody who had control of or access to the high-resolution photography that was done of Antarctica didn't want this image out in the public. It's not surprising. It ties in with what everyone has talked about regarding when disclosure is going to take place, and anything that would indicate alien presence on the planet is real gets pushed to the back burner and denied or just hidden.
What you mean, if we go back to the beginning of the series of these images, which you have looked at, December 30th, 2004, that was an image at 9,750 feet. You could see the lips, the chin, the nose, and sort of a head shape then. It was more icy and there was more snow. And then the third one was October 30th, 2010, from 21,000 feet. And you can see the mouth, the nose, the eyes, but this is from way up high. Then number 4 is October 30th, 2011, from 10,000 feet. This oriental face with the slanted eyes in the snow. Next would be September 28th, 2012, the one that emerged and is very clear that it is a head.
When you see something appear like it appeared in 2012, how do you know that that wasn't something that was disinformation, that was photoshopped and input into Google Earth at the request of somebody? Well, we went back and looked at the earlier years, and maybe we wouldn't have found anything, and that might have led us to the fact that that was a fake photo. Mm-hmm. But we found things, which means that is a real image in 2012.
Can we trust Google Earth? Is Google Earth blurring images, creating images under the order of some government agency?
Well, I think that the answer to that is yes. They're under contract. They're under non-disclosure agreements. They're under classification agreements. And they are in business to make money, and they're under contract to do what they're told to do or to hide what they're told to hide. I have no doubt that Google does what they're told to do. The size of this thing is immense. It's 0.6 of a mile. From some of the ancient history that we know about from cuneiform tablets in Sumer, their history says that the Anunnaki came here anywhere from 250 to 400,000 years ago. Well, maybe they weren't the first, or maybe they were someplace else on Earth before they went to Sumer.
Well, a lot of people, including me, would like to organize an investigation and go to Antarctica, right to the latitude and longitude of this big black stone face, to see for ourselves as the Antarctic ice and snow continue to melt faster and faster in global warming. So, Mark, can American citizens go to Antarctica to explore this huge oriental alien face?
Well, there's two answers to the question. Can United States citizens go to Antarctica? Yes, they can. can they go wherever they want to explore? And the answer to that is pretty much no. In 1982, President Reagan signed a memorandum called the U.S. Antarctic Program, and that program controls who goes to Antarctica and what they do when they get there. And it's monitored by the National Science Foundation, which one would think is the correct group of people because it primarily deals with scientific expeditions, whether they're astronomers, biologists, geologists, that through their research, there are programs that have been established. There's transportation provided by the military that can go there for scientific reasons. If you're a regular citizen and not a scientist that's being funded by the National Science Foundation or some other research organization, you can apply for an expedition to go to Antarctica. But if you do, you have to provide the plan. You have to be approved. You have to provide all your expenses. You have to provide insurance. You have to ensure that everybody is trained in all the safety procedures and survival procedures if something happens. And then you have to agree to reimburse the government, whether it's NSF or whether it's the military, if they have to go in and rescue you because you get stuck in the ice or get lost. And you just don't have free reign of the continent to go investigate things that they don't want you to see.
And that is everything that I've heard about trying to go to Antarctica. It isn't easy. And if you sign up with any of the tourist ship groups, you will run into that everything will be highly controlled, and you will be maybe where there are penguins and feeding some penguins, but you won't be able to go to a latitude and longitude like the one where the half-mile black rock head is. And it is a challenge to all of you listening tonight. What do we do when information like this, maybe it's a deliberate leak, Captain Wood thinks that it probably is, trying to get attention, but when that happens, why can't it be accompanied by, and now we're going to show you? And I wonder what would happen if all of you in every state and province sent a letter to whoever are your political representatives, giving them the latitude and the longitude that is at myearthfiles.com, and asking their staff simply to go to that latitude and longitude and to let you as a taxpayer, a voter, know, could you go to Antarctica to visit where this amazing image is, and what would be the dialogue between all of the various political units on people saying, here is the news, it's Google Earth, here is what is there, can we see it? And if we're not allowed to travel there because of national security restrictions for some reason, then is it appropriate to ask all of our political representatives, can you go? And can you report back to us as a government of, by, and for the people? What is a half mile from chin to top of a pointed head, black, reminds me of Spartan 1 describing he called it black basalt, and there are tremendous numbers of volcanoes have been in the Antarctic region for a long time. So maybe it is black basalt, and that would mean the head was carved out of the same material that he saw in the halls, in the walls that glowed and had all the hieroglyphs and symbols that were somewhere between Egyptian and Mayan. And then the other Navy SEAL that I have mentioned here, not on video, who reinforces what Spartan 1 has said and has described another huge space with a ceiling 80 feet up above that they measured through some laser measurement, and that there were no walls or supporting, but it was also black, solid black. with these carved hieroglyphs. So is somebody now deciding that with all of these discussions, including my Spartan 1 and Spartan 2, and my recounting what the other Navy SEAL has told me at conferences and here at my Earthfiles YouTube channel, is Antarctica going to be one of the opening spots that we all keep hoping that we will get that big headline, we're not alone in the universe, and here are the reasons why? Well, what could be more significant than somebody finally, scientists I hope, announcing that Antarctica, the whole continent maybe, is proof of maybe waves of ancient civilizations on our planet, because as we have discussed in the past, this big, huge continent of Antarctica that is as wide as the United States is from coast to coast, 70, 100 years ago, it was hooked on to Pangaea, which was around what we call Africa. And then over 70 to 100 years, there was that separation. And the whole time, it was hot, it was tropical. They found pollen from plants that are hot. They have found various kinds of dinosaur fossils, all kinds of things. And then it settled, the whole big continent that we call Antarctica, settled down in what we call the South Pole today. And then that mystery. What happened 34 million years ago that all of those millions of years of hot tropical climate suddenly just changed rapidly, and ice started building up, and Antarctica has been an ice-locked land, with the exception of perhaps about 14 million years ago. There might have been a temporary increase in temperature, but it didn't last very long. So essentially, we have a continent that has been buried with 2 miles and in some places 3 miles of ice. And that is why Spartan 1, when we were doing the video a year ago, he asked me, do you know, Linda, when was the last time that Antarctica was free of ice? And that sent me on a research project, and that's where you do it yourself. You can start Googling it. You'll find that between 33 million and 34 million years ago, the continent of Antarctica changed. Well, these questions also apply to this new latitude and longitude, which if you go down on my maps at earthfiles.com or go and look at the 4 videos that I have posted with Spartan 1 and Spartan 2 at my Earthfiles YouTube channel, subscribe and go and study those videos, that you will find that Spartan 1 said that he was brought in on a big carrier. Helicopter took him to McMurdo. On McMurdo, they got onto half tracks, and they went up to a spot that would be, these are general words, so that the latitude and longitude isn't compromised at his request, in the Beardmore Glacier area. Well, when you look at a map and you have McMurdo Station, often it's at the bottom orientation when you see maps, and the McMurdo is on the Ross Sea, then about 410 miles from there, you're going toward or over Victoria Land, toward Wilkes Land, and you come to the Admiralty Mountains, and there is more water beyond that goes into the Southern Ocean. And so the Southern Ocean comes around a shoulder there, and there's the Ross Sea, our American base, the Beardmore Glacier, and extending over to the ocean, to the South Ocean, you end up eventually over that big mysterious Wilkes Land that has the single strongest magnetic anomaly on planet Earth. When you go to my 4-part videos, you will see animation that shows that this Wilkes Land magnetic anomaly, which is in this sort of general vicinity as you go toward the Admiralty Mountains, and then you go along the ocean a ways. The Wilkes Land magnetic anomaly is more toward the ocean side of the big Wilkes Land. And so kind of in this one big section of Antarctica, we have got the underground architecture that's been described by 2 SEALs that have been there. We have the big magnetic anomaly, and in the Admiralty Mountains, we have now, it's not even speculation. It is a huge, a little over half mile from the bottom of what is a point, either a pointed chin or a beard from a pointed chin, up to a head that seems to point up also, and that Navy retired Captain Mark Wood, using the Google measurements, said it's somewhere between 2,700 and 3,000 feet. And then the left eye was about 500 and some feet, and the mouth 400 and some feet. And it raises, again, also a question about monument-sized, using plateaus, using mountains, using hills, to sculpture maybe territorial markers. And what makes me next think about territorial markers is from 76 to today, 2019, has been all of the controversy and scientific debate about that huge plateau on Mars in Cydonia that is the carved head with eyes, nose, mouth, lips, teeth you can see on a very high resolution screen that our government uses to separate tanks from trees. I've had that experience north of Boston in a company there that Mark Carlotto, who has been one of the premier researchers of the Cydonia face on Mars. He showed me on a big screen back in 1982, and on this big screen where they would send in data from satellites to separate tanks from trees for the Department of Defense, he showed me an image, a real high-res image of the face on Mars. And I remember I was really stunned because the detail was so fine that you could see lines crossing in the forehead as if it was wearing something on the head. There appeared to be bands. Think of Hatshepsut and various periods in Egypt where they had the gold and black bands alternating. That was suggested. The eyes, you could literally see in the eye on the right, because on the left side there had been a cave, some kind of like a cave-in or avalanche, and not all of the left face is gone, but it was definitely destroyed or hit by something. But the right eye, it looked in that big screen like an iris with a pupil. The nose was refined with nostrils that were actually formed as if you were a first-class sculptor and you were making a nose. And then the lips. They were absolutely refined, a difference between the lips, and then between the lips there were teeth with vertical lines. And I remember Mark said, "What's your first reaction to seeing this?" And I didn't even think. I just said, "It's like a silent scream." He said, "Wow, you're not the only person who said that to me." And so then we had a discussion. Is this big monument head on Mars a warning? A warning between warring factions of other intelligences? Territorial markers that are warnings? Would the Antarctic, all the big massive structures, whenever they were built, would something like this big head in the Admiralty Mountains, would it be a territorial marker? Remember when I was interviewing Brian S., the Navy flight engineer, who back in from the end of the 80s into the 90s did a lot of work in a C-130 crew in Antarctica. And he talked about how they would have missions to go from McMurdo through the South Pole over to Davis and some of the far eastern camps. And that they noticed half a dozen times as they would come up near the Transantarctic Mountains, which cross all of between West and Eastern Antarctica, that when they would get, always, it was the same place, the Beard Moor Glacier. Silver disks would come up. They would stay down 10 to 12,000 feet. They'd be flying maybe at 27,000, 30,000 feet. The silver disk would stay down and make darting motions and stop and do 90-degree turns. And the crew and with the pilot, they would, I wonder why they aren't coming up where we are. I wonder why they don't appear to ever cross the Beard Moor Glacier. That was a discussion that that professional C-130 crew had several times about silver disks that they saw. And then when they would go back to McMurdo after their mission and ask about what were those silver disks, they ended up having men in suits that they said had to be CIA, NSA, DIA, and RO types, would come and tell them, you are not to talk about the silver disks. And then later, when the scientists went missing, the National Science Foundation scientists went missing, in Marie Byrd Land, which is off in western Antarctica, and they were involved with trying to find out what happened to those scientists. And when they finally got a call that the scientists, after 2 full weeks, had finally appeared, and they went, and the scientists seemed scared, wouldn't talk. And when the C-130 crew with Brian S. on it got back to McMurdo, they were told in no uncertain terms again by men in black that they were not to talk about the National Science Foundation scientists disappearing or any speculation about UFOs and ETs. And yet Brian said that in the bars and drinking beer and in the lunchrooms and all of that, that this was a big subject there. Are there non-humans underground in Antarctica that National Science Foundation and other people go to for something that's scary, that the government doesn't want anybody to talk about it? And tonight, at the beginning, we're looking at a black rock-carved huge head that apparently the melting ice and snow in Antarctica has finally revealed more than it was in the 2004 image, the first one that Captain Wood found going back, proving that it wasn't a fluke, proving that it wasn't something, a fluke from 2012 image in 2019, that there are images that go back to 2004 and that face is still there. Why can't we all know about what is built in Antarctica at any level? I hope some of you will write your political representatives and ask. Maybe if a lot of us started asking and showing this image, because this is public. This is a public image of something that has been constructed in rock in the Admiralty Mountains of Antarctica. So it seems to me that every person on the planet has a legitimate reason and right to ask political representatives, scientists, military people, anyone, what is this huge half-mile head carved in that black rock? Why would it be hidden? Why wouldn't we have banks of archaeologists going there? And then the big question, Is it related directly to all of the big black architecture that has been described by the Navy SEALs a couple of miles down under the ice? But if it is made out of neutralizing gravity, what's called self-activated substance, then it could be. It could have been built there 60 million years ago, and then the ice came and covered it, and it wouldn't have any impact because what these structures are made of would be completely different from anything that we know, and they would be able to counteract the weight of 2 miles of ice. That's the speculation. So I am continuing to want to investigate Antarctica. I wish a group of us could go there tomorrow and go to that Admiralty Mountain with people who were scientists and knew how to climb, and we could all finally see for ourselves. But Captain Mark would explain why that's not going to happen. So we all need to keep investigating as much as we can. I love getting these intelligent emails from all of you. Hope that you will turn to your family, your friends, your business associates, and please urge them to subscribe to my Earthfiles YouTube broadcast on Wednesdays, and that the bigger our population gets as an audience, perhaps we will have the ability to have more dialogue, even with people who are in government. And now, it's about 10 minutes after 8. I want to go to questions and answers from you now with the help of my dear friend and colleague, Peggy, and to thank you for tonight, because I felt like everything from the devastation of the oxygen-producing plant life on our planet is number one. And number two is, what in the world is in, on, and under the huge Antarctic continent? And we should know. So, Peggy, what about some questions?
Hi, Linda. So tonight, I think a great question was posed by Jessie Peak, and she mentioned, do you think we should colonize Mars when we haven't even finished searching everywhere here on Earth?
You know, it is a wonderful question. I have had that exact same question with people who are working on some of the aerospace efforts about getting to Mars. And here is the best insight, perhaps, that I've had. People like astronauts. I remember being in Houston at a Lunar and Planetary Institute conference probably 15 years ago. I think it was John Young was their main speaker. And his theme as an astronaut was, if the United States doesn't try to support through Congress, through budgets, through the public understanding the importance, getting a base on Mars, getting a base on the moon, and I think he was really stressing the moon at that time, but mentioned Mars, that we live on what essentially is an unstable planet. It has volcanoes, it has earthquakes, it has solar energy prominences that can come from the sun with great power, depending upon whether the strike is right at the Earth. He went through, at that Houston Lunar and Planetary Institute conference with scientists, a list of why it is important for Homo sapiens sapien to get bases off the planet, even if they are small in the beginning, dominated by scientists with military help, with the idea that whatever happens on the Earth, as we continue to evolve, as we continue, maybe already with the collaboration and help of extraterrestrial biological entities, as government documents say, that are our allies, our friends, and that we already have bases, and that we already have allied help. But that isn't proven to us, the public. That's what we need. We need confirmation. And that when John Young was explaining or talking to the scientists in that big conference, his bottom line was, in a way, the same conclusion I had from crop circle research, that life on this planet is not guaranteed, and that the history of this 4.6 billion year old planet has been one of periodic, I think you would say, catastrophes. One being the big 6-mile wide asteroid that came in to the Gulf of Mexico, smashed into what is called the Chicxulub crater, took out about 95% of Earth life 66 million years ago, and took out all the dinosaurs. That was an existential, apocalyptic crisis. But what came out of it were mammals. Huge spike in the evolution of mammals. We humans are mammals. So John Young and others that I have talked to about why should we be trying to get support, put money, put politics, put everything behind getting bases that become part of our American and world civilization, not black budgeted, black hidden, black secrets. Let's have an open public base on Mars and the moon, and that's what astronaut John Young was arguing for. So as this week and the last couple of weeks have evolved with chaos in Hong Kong, our country, other countries, the burning fires, the terrible thousands of burning fires that are burning up the living, green, water-filled, oxygen-producing, beautiful plants and trees. What humans are doing to the earth is a threat. And it may be, in the end, that trying to get bases, one way or the other, on Moon and Mars and maybe out on Titan, a hydrocarbon big gasoline station for hydrocarbon fuel transport to the earth, who knows. But I think that these bases are important. I agree with the astronauts and the scientists I've talked to. I think we have to get other bases because we don't know what is going to happen on this planet. And there is one big subject I have mentioned before about that black hole at the center of the Milky Way galaxy. And there have been increasing numbers of papers about how cyclically the energy from the black hole can pulse through the Milky Way. One of the numbers given is maybe every 11, 12,000 years. And that it may have a tremendous relevance in what is going to happen in the next maybe 5, 10 years. And we should know more about it. And so I will make you a promise that in an upcoming Earthfiles YouTube broadcast, I will try to update you on what I know about that black hole, the energy pulses, the cycles on Earth throughout this Milky Way galaxy, information that was largely kept from us, and I think now is beginning to filter out through science papers, and I think we should know about the black hole. And with that, Peggy, I would like to take another question.
This one is from Gas Mask. I kind of shortened the question, but he wants to know, do you believe that the aliens that we see, could they be clones?
Oh, many. Here, I'll give you a brief taxonomy. I could do an entire hour program and have one in my keynote or conferences on taxonomy.
I thought that was a good question to
yeah.
ask.
Excellent, excellent. Because it goes right to the heart of the evolution of knowledge that all of us who have been investigating for a long time, me for 40 years, since 1979 to 2019, starting with animal mutilations, and people in science, people in military, people in medicine. We have had exposures to, and I would say it's proved, that we are dealing with intelligences that make clones as an operative interface with the Earth. They make hybrids as an ongoing genetic manipulation and evolution of intelligent humanoid life on our planet right now. If Barbara Lamb, the abduction researcher, a dear colleague and friend of mine, she's worked at this hard for a long time, is a co-author on the book Welcome to Meet the Hybrids. If she were here, she would probably agree with a statement that I heard, that a current sort of classified but leaking estimate of how many of the 7.5 or 6 billion human-looking beings on the Earth right now, how many are hybrids, meaning extraterrestrial genes, not beating around the bush, not pretending from some other line of Homo sapien. No, from extraterrestrial biological entities, or there's even been suggested that there are extra-dimensional entities or interdimensional entities that can come into this matter universe from even another dimension and manipulate genetically in order to create body containers that they can inhabit in this particular matter universe with this particular Planck's constant separation at the atomic level. And that would mean, if this were true, that you could have, who knows, how many dimensions holding a universe or universes in which the biggest game in town would be, how do you penetrate the universes on either side? And if the molecular matter is different dimension to dimension to dimension, you would have the challenge of being a sophisticated scientist in a universe in, let's call it dimension A. And you want to see and experiment with life in dimension C. And you can't maybe go with what you're made of in dimension A. You have to make something out of what's in dimension C's matter universe. And you have to figure out a way to do that in that universe that's under your control. Clones. Eventually, once you had been able to put your container bodies in the universe dimension C, then you might then start figuring out how you would combine matter that would be again under your control with matter that was in this universe on this planet Earth, and mix and match and experiment, and pretty soon start getting what Barbara Lamb and others are talking about today. Humans that have a percentage of extraterrestrial, biological. The presumption currently is that those genetic manipulations are from intelligences inside this universe, not another dimensional universe. But whatever the case is there, that our planet, as you've heard me say before, by a Defense Intelligence Agency analyst who talked to me for 7 hours in December of 1999 about my third book, Glimpses of Other Realities, Volume 2, High Strangeness specifically, because there's a 100-page chapter with illustrations by people in the human abduction syndrome of cloning tube technology, where the way it's described is they just take genetic material. It can be from sperm, it can be from an egg, it can be from inside your cheek. And they know how to manipulate it in this technology. The illustrations are in my book, Glimpses Volume 2. That shocked the government guys. They didn't think anybody would have any illustrations of what they thought was a huge secret. And the way it was explained to the human abductees who described all this and did the drawings in my book is that these particular non-humans had the ability to make a full-blown adult body, did not have to go through a baby phase. And one of the tricks was which decade of life did they want the clone to appear in these tubes of light. And then that concept was that whoever it is, whoever is behind the intelligence that is manipulating genetic material, and like the DIA guy told me, for at least 270 million years, 3 competing extraterrestrial, perhaps other dimensional thrown in there too, civilizations have been mixing and matching genes on this planet 270 million years at least, and terraforming. And that the manipulation of genetic material from this planet was responsible. That DIA guy told me back in December of 1999, Linda, there really were unicorns, something like a horse with a horn out here, and perhaps even centaurs, some kind of a mix between humans and horses and other such animals. And he said what is implied in the question about hybrids. If Barbara Lamb, I, and others have been given a percentage that 30% of all 7.6 billion humans on the earth now are hybrids, some mix, some percentage, could be small, who knows, of extraterrestrial, then everybody says, well, is it an invasion through genetics? Is that Earth's biggest importance to the competing extraterrestrial civilizations is as a laboratory of genes and manipulation from which we humans have evolved because we too were made? Are we some other intelligence's android? And if we are, the time has come, I think, for us to all know the truth. To know the truth about every century, every phase of life on this planet, going back to the Anunnaki, which I understand were full-blood extraterrestrials, perhaps from Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2, a binary star system about 40 light years from Earth, who also may have gotten here via Sirius B, probably, the planet, and might have gone from there to Mars, might have come from Mars to Earth, and that this would just be one example, and that the Anunnaki and the Sumerians may have been some kind of hybrid, and that all of them, Anunnaki, Sumeria, coming down to finally experiments with evolving humanoid primates on our planet, they may have all made clones. Definitely we're making hybrids. Making androids would be like biological robots that would just perfectly do their bidding. Clones might do that too. Clones could be androids. And then the other category of just pure mechanical robots. Only it's my understanding that the advanced civilizations that have been using our solar system and this planet for the 270 million plus years, they wouldn't be making a robot the way we think of robots. They would be making something out of self-activating material in which the software and the hardware are one, that they make. They're vehicles that are completely interactive and intelligent and don't need any prime intelligence. The vehicles and the pyramids and everything that they've made can be self-activating. So to talk about hybrids, to talk about clones, is to go right to the heart of what I know that the government of the United States has personally been trying to study since at least the 1960s. And as a footnote, for people who would like to read a fascinating book by a first-hand testimony, get Ingo Swann's book. The title is Penetration. Many, many levels to that title. The biggest one for me, I knew him. Penetration of the alien presence, penetration of intelligences that have been on this planet and in this solar system for eons, penetration of beginning to understand that the alien intelligence that has been interacting with Earth, humans, and all Earth life for so long is where we came from. And that the intelligences can base themselves under the earth deep, 10 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles, 40 miles. With ground penetrating radar, we can only go down a little tiny bit. So we don't even know what is in the crust, the rind. And Ingo, who was a consummate control remote viewer, who told me that in all of his many taskings, that he knew that this universe was teeming with consciousness, with life. And then the issue would be there. We talked about it. If that's true, why are we on a planet, in a solar system, in one of trillion galaxies in this universe, where we have been told for at least 10,000 years that we are the only life form in this universe? Why have humans been fed such a bill of goods? It's one of the questions that fuels me to try to keep understanding more and more, and that the multiple facets that range from the animal mutilations, which are ongoing again in more cycles, the human abduction syndrome with extraordinary testimonies from fellow human beings, to crop formations, which I think are related to mathematical languages and perhaps time travel, to all of the various facets of government policies of denial, while in the black world they have been back engineering or trying to the technology that they deny exists. And that my prayer with you is that we are going to start getting accelerated truth as we get out of this century, and that it will begin now, I hope, before New Year's Eve of 2019, but at least in 2020, and that you and I can keep meeting like this on Wednesday nights and sharing great questions. I will keep trying to bring to you what I think is some of the most important and breaking news, and these facets that come about the new science of our universe and the whole huge categories that I want you to know and promise. I have file after file after file from all of your extraordinary communications to me. I am humbled by being able to read all of the incredible, intelligent, mind-bending experiences that so many of you have had and are sending to me and that you've never told anyone else before. And I have been in a process of coming back to many of you in email asking if I have permission to use your name or not, but that I will start. It's probably going to be in November and December, sort of as like a holiday gift from all of you to me and back to you. The insights that are coming to me from all of your correspondence and some whistleblowers that are beginning to come from the military with information that I personally have never encountered until now. I will hope to have one of those stories with illustrations for you next Wednesday. Looking forward to being here without a trip in between. And we'll try to get my funny Fluffy to join Chocolate at the beginning and then to unfold an amazing story. So tell everybody that you know. Subscribe to my Earthfiles YouTube broadcast. And I'll see you here next week.